Corruption is robbing our economy. People are gaining from dishonesty.
Grenadian brothers and sisters, I bring you greetings from the Integrity Commission of Grenada, Deputy Chairperson Winston James, Commissioners Justin Campbell, Ronald Peters, Attorneys Jasmine Redhead and Owa Augustine, and Pastor Devon Rache. I also bring you greetings from our small, hard-working professional team at the Office of the Commission. Today, Thursday, December 9th, 2021, national, regional, and international stakeholders join the United Nations to celebrate achievements and to reflect on our collective efforts in the global fight to combat corruption on the occasion of International Anti-Corruption Day. This year, we unite under the global theme, Your Right, Your Role, Say No to Corruption. We commemorate this occasion through a series of events which started on Sunday with a church service at the Presbyterian Kirk in St. George's and continued with the sharing of media statements of support delivered by key civil society stakeholders and skits performed by our nation's school children. We of the Commission have taken up the responsibility of establishing a national anti-corruption system which remains relatively new to Grenada. The Commission's work during this last year was initially slowed due to the reconstituting and onboarding of new commissioners. However, this last year was particularly challenging for all citizens and national organizations. Likewise, we were impacted by infections and exposures to the COVID-19 virus, and unfortunately, even the death of the supervisor of the police officers assigned to our office. Despite it all, we pressed on, adapting to working online and social distancing. We continued to carry out our work as best as we could. Notwithstanding, an historic national gift registry was operationalized in collaboration with the Office of the Accountant General. It is a national mechanism to prevent inducement and manage circumstances conducive to corruption and bribery. Through the gift registry, gifts received by public sector officers and officials valued above $500 are to be declared. 8 such gifts were declared and several inquiries were made by public officers for guidance. In April 2021, Grenada participated in the launch of the Commonwealth Secretariat's Anti-Corruption Benchmarks or Standards for Good Anti-Corruption Practices by governments and public sector bodies. 25 such benchmarks provide for an holistic and interlocking system that aims to reduce and deal with the risk of corruption in the public and private sectors. As chairman, I represented the Integrity Commission of Grenada as a consulting author on the basis of the recognition of the Grenada's Commission's regional best practices. The Commission also continue to train and upgrade organizational skills of the public sector, as Grenada is the home to a regional virtual anti-corruption training center for excellence under the auspices of the Commonwealth Secretariat. This year, participants also included members of the public sector, statutory bodies, members of parliament, and even government. The Commission also continued its intake of asset declarations from persons in public life. 135 such declarations were received, but intake was stymied due to the intermittent face-to-face operations which were hampered by conditions created by the pandemic. We also addressed and responded to several concerns and complaints made by citizens, as well as completed important reports. During the third and fourth quarters of this year, we completed the investigation and inquiry into the Marketing and National Importing Board, which utilized a multi-agency approach. Despite some expectations, we want you to understand that our work is not like making instant coffee. We cannot rush an inquiry to placate public agitation. The inquiry had ground to a halt for some time as a result of court proceedings brought against the Commission. In the end, we prevailed and judgment was upheld in our favor in the Court of Appeal, setting precedent in Grenada and beyond with respect to our legal authority to undertake such an investigation and inquiry into the affairs of statutory and public bodies within the scope of our oversight. I am pleased to report that as a result of the sterling facilitative efforts of the Commission's professional technical team and the cooperation of our multi-agency stakeholders, the Commission's report with findings and recommendations has already been forwarded to our collaborating agencies, including the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, law enforcement agencies, and the Office of the Director of Audit. Once settled by these collaborating stakeholders, the due process will take its course. In 2022, looking forward, the Commission will issue further operational and anti-corruption benchmarks and guidelines for the public sector. It will continue to educate, sensitize, and train to ensure their adoption as national standards. The Commission will complete its investigations and organizational compliance reviews currently undertaken during the COVID pandemic through online systems assessment questionnaires administered to ministries, departments, and statutory bodies. The outcomes of these actions will inform the implementation of procedures, policies, and protocols geared towards managing and mitigating the occurrence of corrupt practices and national risk. It will do so through recommendations for improved operational practices, fiscal management, productivity, and enshrining and embedding ethical standards and values. Conflict of interest management and code of conduct guidelines will be published and are expected to be implemented across the public sector after consultations. Stakeholders will identify and appoint risk management champions for the public sector. The 5th Virtual Center for Excellence series for senior leadership and management will be hosted by the Regional Center for Anti-Corruption Training housed in Grenada under the auspices of the Commonwealth Secretariat and the government and the people of Grenada. Through this work, the Commission will continue its training and development of public sector stakeholders, including statutory bodies. Educational outreach programs will sensitize our population and especially raise awareness among our young people about the recently launched anti-corruption benchmarks, the importance of fighting corruption, and the standards and guidelines that we must live by to effectively combat corruption. we of the Commission understand the importance of early interventions. It is a whole of society approach, which includes not only the public and private sectors, but also our children and youth. This is required to instill values and standards of integrity and the prevention of corruption required to shift our cultural norms in this regard, which are more commonly accepted or ignored by our adult population. We often tend to situate the issues of integrity and combating corruption at the feet of our politicians, national leaders, law enforcement, and the judiciary. However, the fight does not start in the courts. It begins in our hearts, in our homes, in our places of worship, in our schools and communities. That's where integrity building values are formed. Combating corruption is not do as I say and not as I do. Indeed, this year's theme reminds us all that the fight against corruption is not just for our leaders. A sustainable life, economy, and peace can only be achieved when you join the fight against corruption. It is your right, your role. Say no to corruption.
Report it. Corruption, do not support it.
A message from the Office of the Integrity Commission.